Hi everyone, welcome to the live stream today. Very much excited for having you. It's a new week as we continue with our discussion towards the ICA May 2021 examination, and we are in week 6 in our discussion and towards the exams, and I'm very much excited about it. And we want to focus and continue with our discussion in management accounting, that is ACCA F2, F5, ICA Introduction to Management Accounting, and then Management Accounting Level 2. And we want to focus on some key issues that we need to understand today. Now, remember that I told you there are three key concept that you need to understand that at the foundation when it comes to the management accounting paper, and that is classification of costs and accounting for overheads, and then dealing with some issues in relation to how the introductory aspect, all right, classification of costs, accounting for overheads, and then those other basic issues. Now, in the previous discussions, we looked at accounting for classification of costs, looked at the various things we need to consider, and today we want to focus and pay attention to some other things and look at accounting for overheads. This is very critical because we're going to be needing this for marginal costing. We're going to need this for activity-based costing, and we are going to also need it for absorption costing. So that is what we want to go through today and see where we can look at now. If you join the stream, make sure that you share the video with others. Let's reach as many students as possible. Remember to also give a thumbs up on the video, as that helps us to really reach a lot of students across the country, so we can together assist a lot of students on the stream. So let me share my screen with you real quick as we get into the discussion. I see some of you guys joining on Facebook and also on YouTube. So on these two platforms, we are streaming directly, and you can choose where will be comfortable for you so you can join us on the live stream. So let's get straight up into our discussion. Let me share my screen with you, and then let's pick it from there. Right, so see some of you jumping on YouTube as well, on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up when you join the video. Helps us a lot to reach as many students as possible. And comment in the chat box any questions you have for me. Comment in the chat box on YouTube, and then in the comment box on Facebook. Okay, so the screen is up now. So we're looking at accounting for overheads, focusing on how we account for overhead, the stages of overheads. We're going to be explaining the three schools of thoughts when it comes to accounting for overheads. That is the marginal costing, the absorption costing, the activity-based costing in that case. And that is very, very critical when it comes to our understanding and what we need to look out for in that case. Now, on YouTube, I see Ernesto Vietnamian. Hi, Ernesto. I hope you're doing well. Comment in the chat box any questions you have for me, and then let's continue with our discussion. Remember also that you can enroll in our full course to study directly under my mentorship for the examination. So you can check the link in the description or visit NhyiraPremium.com, and for $390 Ghana cedis or $68, you can enroll in the full course and study directly under my mentorship. You get access to all the lecture videos, the ebooks, the question kits, join our weekly live Zoom sessions, and also have me as your personalized mentor. So let's get straight up into our discussion, accounting for overheads. Now, so when we talk about overheads, what do we mean now? If you remember cost classification, we spoke about overheads already, but here we want to bring it up and then see what exactly we need to look out for in there. So in a simple language, we say that overhead is a cost incurred in the course of making a product, providing a service, or running a department, but which cannot be traced directly and in full to the product, service, or department, which cannot be directly traced to the full cost of the product, service, or the department. That is what we mean by overheads. overheads. So we mentioned, if you remember the distinction we gave in direct cost and indirect cost, we mentioned that direct cost can be traced or allocated to a particular cost center or cost unit. That is why we mentioned the issue in relation to direct material cost, direct labor cost, and direct expenses. However, the cost which cannot be traced or allocated to a particular cost center or cost unit are going to be classified as indirect cost, and they are going to be seen as overheads. So when it comes to the overheads, we can have three things in there: indirect material, indirect expenses, indirect labor. And then we can also categorize the overheads into production overheads, selling and distribution overheads, and then administration overheads. So the production overheads would have to do with the factory, okay, how we determine the factory cost, the various overheads we incurred in the factory department of the organization, that will come under the production overheads. Then selling and distribution overheads. These are the costs we incurred in packaging the product, showcasing the product in our showroom, and then distributing the product to the final consumer. All those will fall under the selling and distribution overheads. Then we come to the administration overheads. This could take a form of maybe depreciation of the office building, and other costs that the company incurs in the day-to-day running of the organization. So that is the background of it. Overheads are the costs we incurred in the production of a product, in providing the services or a service or running a department, but which cannot be traced to the product or the service. We cannot be traced to the product or the service. Now, there are three schools of thoughts that we need to look out for when it comes to accounting for overheads. Three schools of thoughts that we need to look out for when it comes to accounting for overheads. We have the absorption costing, we have the marginal costing, and then the third one is the activity-based costing. Okay, so the absorption costing, the marginal costing, and the activity-based costing. Three school of thoughts that we need to go with in that case. Now, we're going to be expanding on these later on, but I'm going to just jump in and talk to you about the absorption costing, and then let's look at the first thing in that case. Now, when it comes to dealing with the issue about absorption costing, it simply has to do with this, that the objective of absorption costing is to include in the total cost of a product an appropriate share of the organization's total overheads. The objective of absorption costing is to include in the total cost of a product an appropriate share of the organization's total overheads. Because at the end of the day, the organization incurs overheads, and that overhead has to be shared among the various departments within the organization. But what basis do we use to share that? We have to find a base, and then one of the school of thought that we're going to be looking at is the absorption costing. Now, unlike absorption costing, with marginal costing, what happens is that it is where we are trying to just include the variable cost of production in the cost of the product. So in other words, under marginal costing, we're going to be splitting cost into fixed and variable. And there, our objective is to maximize contribution, and hence the cost classification is going to be different. We will get into that later on. And then in activity-based costing, this is where we are not just looking at the appropriate share of the overheads, but then we try to get the accurate amount of overhead that we have to include in the total cost of the product. Hence, our focus on the activity-based costing is to identify the cost pool, that is the major cost that the organization incur. Then we identify the cost drivers, that is the activities which drive those costs, and then we'll be able to use the cost pool and the cost drivers to be able to allocate the overhead. And we'll get into all of these things later on. So we say that absorption costing is a method for sharing overheads between different products on a fair basis. Absorption costing is a method for sharing overheads between different products on a fair basis. We are sharing overheads between different products on a fair basis. That is what we mean by absorption costing. So let's look at the reason why absorption costing is preferred, the reason why absorption costing it's considered over marginal costing, over activity-based costing. What are some of the reasons that we can actually talk about? Number one is inventory valuation. Inventory valuation. You see, IAS 2, that is inventory, states that inventory should be valued at full factory costs. All right. So in other words, if we are valuing inventory, it should be valued at full factory costs. Hence, for the purpose of valuation of inventory, it is preferable to use the absorption costing rather than the marginal costing, because with marginal costing you are just going to include the variable factory cost in the estimation of the total cost of the product, total factory cost of the product, in the estimation of the total factory cost of the product. So when you are valuing inventory, what it means is that to some extent inventory will be undervalued under the marginal costing principle, but will be accurately valued in the absorption costing principle. Why? Because with absorption costing, you are calculating the total factory cost at including both the full cost we incur, both fixed and variable in there. That is one of the reasons why we do that. Two is for pricing decisions. Now, how can organization price its products at a profit? An organization can price its products at a profit if it knows exactly how much cost it is incurring in the production of the product. Now, with a marginal costing, like I mentioned, we are going to be determining the full factory cost, taking into consideration only variable cost. However, with absorption costing, we will determine the full factory cost, taking into consideration both the fixed factory cost and the variable factory cost. So it makes pricing more accurate under the absorption costing rather than the marginal costing. That is one of the reasons why we use it. And then the last one is establishing the profitability of different products, establishing the profitability of different products. If it happens that an organization produces more than one product, which in many cases is the truth, then we have to determine which product is profitable, which product is not profitable, and then find out how we can allocate the overheads on that fair basis. That is also something that is critical, something that we need to understand when it comes to the reason why the absorption costing is used. But let's get into some serious issues here and begin to really look at some issues in that case. Now, I see some of you joining the stream. Welcome to the live stream. I see some of you joining on YouTube. Welcome. Give us a thumbs up on the video when you join. It helps us a lot to make sure to promote the channel and the page so we reach as many students as possible. But most importantly, I want you to comment in the chat box, in the comment box, any questions you have for me and what you want us to be sharing on the channel as we move ahead with our discussion. Thank you very much. I see some of you smashing the like button and the heart button on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Thank you very, very much. Right, so let's go into it. Absorption costing. Now, when it comes to dealing with absorption costing, which is the primary thing we're going to be starting with, there are three stages of absorption costing. So we have overhead allocation, overhead absorption, and overhead apportionment. Overhead allocation, overhead absorption, and overhead apportionment. So let's get into how these happen. Let's start with overhead allocation. Overhead allocation. The overhead allocation simply means the process by which a whole cost item, so the process by which whole cost items are charged directly to a cost center or cost unit. So where the product is charged or the whole cost item is charged directly to a cost center, a cost unit is called overhead allocation. Now, for example, a production department to which production overheads are charged. So when we have the production department and then we have production overheads, then ultimately we will charge it to the production department. That is called overhead allocation. Or a production service department to which production overheads are charged. So if the organization has a service department which is part of the production department, then the service department costs they incur would definitely have to be borne or charged to the production department at the end of the day. That is the thing there. an administrative department to which administrative overheads are charged. So the overheads that the entity incurs on the administration, the day-to-day running of the organization, when we charge that overheads to the administration department, it makes sense, and that is called overhead allocation. Then sales and distribution overhead. Which department will we charge that cost to? Ideally, we will charge that cost to the selling and distribution department. Then, so that is what we mean by overhead allocation. Overhead allocation. Trying to charge an item of cost to a particular cost center or cost unit. Trying to charge an item of cost to a particular cost center or cost unit. All right, on Facebook, Labi Benjamin said, good evening. Good evening, Labi. I hope that you are doing well. Any questions, put it in the comment box for me. Then on YouTube, I see, hello, sir, Minmon. Okay, Queno, I see you. You're welcome to the stream as well. So that is the first thing, overhead allocation. Overhead allocation. Then let's move on to the second one, overhead apportionment. Overhead apportionment. Now, so when we talk about overhead apportionment, what do we mean? So allocation means charging the overheads to a cost center or cost unit. But what about apportionment? Now, to apportion something means to share. All right. So that is the simple language. To apportion something means to share. But this is where it's going to get interesting. So make sure you stay with me very well here. So apportionment is a procedure whereby indirect costs are spread evenly between cost centers. Very, very critical here. Apportionment is a procedure whereby indirect costs are spread evenly between cost centers. So indirect costs are going to be incurred by the organization, but when they try to spread it evenly between the cost centers, it is called apportionment. But you see, how do we share the overheads? So we have various cost centers within the organization. Maybe we have production department A, production department B, we have service department A, service department B, maybe we have selling and distribution department. So if we have all these departments available, how do we share the overheads? So there are some guidelines that we have to follow when sharing the overheads. There are some guidelines that we can follow when sharing the overheads. So there's a table here. Now, please know that everything I'm sharing on this live stream is from my book on management accounting. This is my book on management accounting. And if you enroll in our full course, you get access to this ebook as part of your as part of the lecture videos, and you joining our live Zoom sessions, and me being your personalized mentor. So whatever I'm sharing here is from my published book on management accounting, and you can get it also on Amazon to buy. On YouTube, Amadou Abdul Mumin said, good evening, sir. Good evening, Abdul. I hope that you're doing well. Then on Facebook also, I see George Wilfred Togbo Jr. said, good evening. Good evening, Wilfred. I hope that you're doing well. Remember to share the stream, okay? Share the stream. Let's reach as many students as possible and together assist a lot of students writing the exams. So the table below gives us an idea on some cost elements and then basis of apportionment. So if we have certain overheads and we want to apportion them, what are the bases we're going to be using to apportion them? That is what we want to look at here in that case. So let's go. So on the left side, we have the overhead costs, right? Then on the right side, we have the basis of apportionment, how we're going to be sharing such cost. So the overheads on the right side, the basis of apportionment on the left side. So let's see how we actually going to be sharing this with an organization or for an organization. So the first one is costs, repairs and maintenance, etc. We could use the cost or the value of a machine. Now, please note that sometimes maintenance cost could also be shared using, so repairs and maintenance could also be shared using maintenance hours. That is, if we have it available in the question. Maintenance hours. Sometimes if we have that in the question, we could use that to allocate, or sorry, to apportion the cost in there. So depreciation, insurance costs, repairs and maintenance, we can use the cost or the value of the building to share. Then building depreciation, building insurance and repairs, rent and rates, electricity cost, cleaning cost, all these we could also share using the floor area occupied or floor space occupied, the floor space occupied. Now we will get into how some of these things are used in a moment. Then when it comes to things relating to employees, so if the overhead cost relates to employees, then the best basis of apportioning that will be the number of employees in the respective department of the organization. So for instance, we have things like canteen cost, we have things like personnel administration, welfare, supervision, among others. So all overheads relating to employees will be apportioned using the number of employees in various departments. Like for instance, something like canteen cost. Now, we can use the number of employees or the number of meals served. Number of meals served. That could also be another basis that we can use there. Now, sometimes when you do number of meals served, it could provide us a better way to apportion the overheads rather than just looking at the number of employees. Because for instance, there are a couple of, there could be a department where there are only, and there's another department, there are 10 people in that department. Now, so if you are sharing canteen cost, on the average, if you are using the number of employees, what it means is that the department with 10 employees will be having the highest. But maybe the 4 people in the other department, like they are all literally like gluttons, they eat a lot. So it could happen that that department with only 4 employees will be eating more than the department with 10 employees. It could happen. So sometimes the number of employees could help in sharing the canteen cost. But another way we could also share the canteen cost is to use the number of meals served. The number of meals served. That is also there in that case. Then other overheads like miscellaneous expenses, supervision costs. Now, note that supervision also relates to the employees. So we could use the number of employees within the organization to allocate that cost, okay? We could use the number of employees within an organization to allocate that cost. Electricity, okay? Electricity cost or electricity we could use the number of light bulbs or sockets available. We could also use the floor area occupied. We could also use the meter reading or the horsepower. As you can see in the next table that we have here, electricity power, you realize that we are using the machine capacity. So in this case, we look at each department, each division of the organization, whatever machines they are using, what is the meter reading on those machines, then we will use that, what horsepower do they use, or how many horsepower do they have, then we'll be able to use that to charge or to apportion the overhead. Then store costs. Store cost. How do we share store cost? We will share store cost using the number of requisition of materials issued. The number of requisition of materials issues. So these are some overhead costs and the basis of apportionment. Please note that this is just a guideline. Hence, in the question, you would have to identify which basis of apportionment suitably can share the overhead cost in question. But this is a good way to start the journey and have an understanding of exactly what is going on there. Now, so let's look at a question in relation to how we can actually factor overheads and account for overheads in our books. Okay, now I see some of you guys joining. Welcome to the live stream. We're looking at accounting for overheads and how we can use that in absorption costing, marginal costing, and activity-based costing. So comment in the chat box any questions you have for me on YouTube, and comment in the comment box, or put your questions in the comment box on Facebook as well. Smash the like button when you join and share the video. Let's reach as many students as possible. So on YouTube, I see Samuel Edwin Nelson coming on saying, good evening, sir. Good evening, Samuel. I hope that you're doing well. Then Binny Perry said, good evening, sir. Trust you are doing great. Yes, Binny Perry, I'm doing well, and I hope you are also fine. Stay safe and blessed in Jesus' name. Amen. Stay safe too and stay blessed. Vincent Boster said, good evening, Nhyira, live from Tanzania. All right, Boster, you are welcome to the live stream. Thank you for joining us all the way from Tanzania. It's always a pleasure for you guys to join me on the live stream, you know. So let's continue with our discussion. So look at a question right here, and we want to pick this question and see how the pieces can be actually put together. So X PLC produces desks and chairs in the same factory. Each desk uses 3 kilograms of wood at a cost of $4 per kilogram and takes 4 hours to produce. Each chair uses 2 kilograms of wood at a cost of $4 per kilogram and takes 1 hour to produce. Labor is paid at a rate of $2 per hour. Fixed cost of production are estimated to be $700,000 per annum. The company expects to produce 30,000 desks and 20,000 chairs per annum. Overheads are to be apportioned on labor hour basis. Please note that one of the things you need to understand is when you are dealing with absorption costing, it is assumed, please take note of this very well. We assume that under absorption costing, labor is paid at a rate of $2 per hour. Fixed cost of production are estimated to be $700,000 per annum. Overheads are to be apportioned on labor hour basis. Please note that under absorption costing, labor is paid at a rate of $2 per hour. Fixed cost of production are estimated to be $700,000 per annum. Overheads are to be apportioned on labor hour basis. Please note that under absorption costing, labor is paid at a rate of $2 per hour. Fixed cost of production are estimated to be $700,000 per annum. Overheads are to be apportioned on labor hour basis. Looks like I went off, my network jumped off. Let me know if I'm on and my sound is good in the chat. Okay, so looks like we are back. Okay, okay. Osazi said, good evening, live from Nigeria. Okay, thank you for joining us live from Nigeria. Queenie said, yes, you are good. Okay, thank you. Eureka also said you were good. Okay, thank you. Right, so let's go back. My screen is up now. I don't know. I think my network freaked out a little bit. So let's go. So if you're preparing the cost sheet or the cost card, what do we do? What do we do? We said that we bring the direct material. Okay. We bring the direct labor. Bring the direct expenses. So we add that up, and that gives us the prime cost. Then after the prime cost, we're going to be adding factory overheads. Okay, so this is where the workings will come in. And then we'll get a factory or production cost. Factory or production costs. Then we may add non-product. Now I'm going to do this, prepare this again later on and show you something. I'm just using this pro forma to solve this question because the factory overheads, we have to split it into fixed factory overheads and then variable factory overheads when we are doing the workings properly. So just take note of that. Then we will add non-production overheads. adding non-production overheads, depending. This is where administration, selling, and distribution, all of these things coming in. So you add it up, and you get a total cost of production. So with the admin, with the non-production overhead, we are dealing with selling and distribution. We are dealing with administration. Okay, and we could also be dealing with other things, maybe HR or finance. So when we add it up, we get a total cost here. Okay, then you add your profit margin or markup. Profit margin or markup. And then you can get your selling or quoted price. So that is how you're going to work this out. So that is the cost pro forma there that we look at. So the direct material, direct labor, direct expenses, we get a prime cost. Add factory overheads, we get a factory or production cost. Add the non-production overheads, we get a total production cost. Then we add a profit margin or markup, and we get the selling price of the organization. We get a selling price of the organization. Okay, so Abdul said, yeah, you're back. Okay. Faladi Benga Emmanuel said, hi, Nhyira, thank you for the lectures. More grace to your elbow. Thank you. Benga from Lagos, Nigeria. You are welcome, Benga. Thank you for joining us. Desmond Danso said, hi, sir. How are you doing, please? I'm flourishing, and I hope that you are also doing very well. Okay, so having this pro forma at the back of your mind, let's go back to our question and see what's going on there. So XPLC, let's pull it up here. XPLC. Now we realize that XPLC is producing desks and chairs. So let's put it up, desks and chairs. Pulling our currency sign. Then let's see what's going on. Each desk uses 3 kilograms of wood. Each chair uses 2 kilograms of wood. So that will be material cost. So we're going to bring material cost here. So how do we work that out? That is going to be 3 kilograms slash 2 kilogram by 4. 3 kilogram. Okay, so that's going to be 4, 3, 12, 4, 2, 8. Does it make sense? So that's how we go about it. Then we bring in, we are told that for the decks, it takes 4 hours. For the chairs, it takes 1 hour. So let's go. That's labor cost, direct labor cost to be specific. And that's going to be 4 hours against 1 hour multiplied by the rates per hour is $2 per hour. So 428,212, right? Makes sense? So let's go in there. So we add it up. That gives us the prime cost. This is going to be 20. This is going to be 10. I hope you are following. 20 and 10. So once we have the prime cost like this, what are we going to do? We're going to bring in the factory overheads. So add factory overheads. Now we're going to do workings for that, because we are told in the question that the total overhead is 700,000 and the company expects to produce this, to produce that. So we need to calculate the overhead absorption rate that we have to be using in a moment, because overheads are absorbed on the labor hour basis. Overhead are absorbed on the labor hour basis. So let's do workings for that. We can do it on the next sheet. So the overhead absorption rate will be equal to the fixed overheads divided by total labor hours. Now, we know the fixed overheads already to be $700,000, but the labor hours we don't know. So we may have to do a workings for that. So let's pull it up. Desks here, and then chairs here. So let's bring in the budgeted units. So the budgeted unit is going to be 30,000. That's against 20,000. Then we bring in the labor hours. I think this is 4 and 1. So this is going to be 120,000. This is going to be 20,000. So that in total, the labor hours will be equal to 140,000 hours. 140,000 hours. I hope you're following the picture. 140,000 hours. Now, once we have that, we can come and put the 140,000 hours back here so that we can calculate the overhead absorption rate. So 700,000 divided by 140,000. I'm getting $5 per hour, per labor hour. $5 per labor hour. That's what we are interested in. That's the overhead absorption rate. $5 per labor hour. $5 per labor hour. I hope you get it working well. So overhead absorption rate equals the fixed overheads divided by the total budgeted hours. Now, in the question, the hours were not given, so we needed to compute that. So now we know the overhead absorption rate is $5 per hour, $5 per hour. So we can go back to our question, and the way we get this is to multiply the hours by the overhead absorption rate. So it's going to be 4 hours. It's going to be 4 hours. That's against 1 hour. Multiply by the $5 per hour. Makes sense? So let's see what we got there. So 4 by 5, that's going to be 20. And then 5 by 1, that's going to be 5. So this is going to be 40. This is going to be 15. So that is, now let's go back to the requirements so we know. You say the cost per unit. So cost per unit. It's going to be 40 for this, and then 15 for that. So that is it. That is how we solve this particular question. That is how we solve this particular question. Any question? Any questions? Any questions? So you comment in the chat box if you have any questions for me. If there is anything you don't understand so that I can go over, let me also know if you get it. So you look at the question and the requirements, then you'll be able to know what exactly is going on. So that's it. Very sweet, simple, straight to the point. Everybody good? Okay. So let's move on. Another question here. So this question was for us to calculate the cost per unit for desks. The cost per unit for desks. Now, it's always important for you to understand the requirements of the question so that you don't go overboard. Now, the second question said we should allocate and apportion production overhead cost among the three departments. Now, remember we've done the basis of apportionment and all of those things. Benga said, please, let's have the question on the screen. Okay, so this is the question. This is the question. So you can take a screenshot or something like that. I hope you got it now, so I can proceed. Okay, you're welcome. So this is the second question. So you can take a screenshot of this as well as we look at it. So with this question, the examiner said we should allocate and apportion production overhead cost among the three departments using suitable basis. So let's see what's going on here. Production overhead cost for the period as follows. So we see factory rent, we see factory heat. Now we have been given an additional information here. That is how the overheads, the basis of apportionment, the examiner has given us. So how do we answer this question in that case? So factory rent, what did we say we can use to allocate it? Rent is based on cubic meter, all right? Cubic space, that is the space you are occupying. So what is going to be going in that case? So please go over the overhead appointments. Which one? Is it the question we just saw? Is it this one you're talking about, Quino? Or what we brought here? Let me know what exactly you're talking about. Are you talking about this one, how we got this? So we computed the overhead absorption rate. We were not given the labor hours in total in the question, but we're given the per unit and for each particular product. So we did the workings and we realized that desks would need 120 hours. Chairs will need 20,000 hours. So when we add the two up, that gives us 140,000 hours. 140,000 hours. Okay, that is how many hours we need in total for the two products the company is producing, the desks and the chairs. Now, once we have that, we can go back and calculate the overhead absorption rate, and that is the fixed overheads divided by the total labor hours. Fixed overheads divided by the total labor hours. So how are we going to get that? How are we going to get that? So we were given the fixed overheads in the question to be $700,000. So we divide that with the 140,000 hours. That is the total labor hours we calculated. And that gives us $5 per hour. Now, the way we absorb overheads is the actual on the overhead absorption rate. The actual on the overhead absorption rate. So if we go to the cost sheet here, you realize that when it comes to the factory overheads, the actual labor hours for the decks is 4 hours. That's what we have here, 4 hours. And for the chair is 1 hour. We will bring the 4 up, like you see here. We bring the 1 up, then we multiply it by the overhead absorption rate, which we had here, which is the $5 per hour, which is the $5 per hour. So that $5 per hour will be multiplied by the factory overhead, sorry, the factory hours. So 5 by 4 gives us 20 for the desks, and then 5 by 1 gives us 5 for the chairs. So Kwenu, do you get the treatment now? Let me know in the chat box if you get it now. And then if you have any other questions, if you are watching and you have any questions, don't hesitate to put it in the chat box, because I'm reading all of your comments both on Facebook as well as on YouTube. In that case, both on Facebook and YouTube, I'm reading all of your comments. I'm reading all of your comments. Kwenu, let me know if you're good before I proceed. Or maybe you off so I can proceed. Okay, Kwenu said yes. Okafo. Okay, so this was the one you were referring to. Okay, so now you get it. That's okay. Okafo Juliet said, wow. Okafo Juliet, how are you doing? Welcome to the live stream. Comment in the chat box if you have any questions for us. And smash the like button on the video when you join. In case you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel also, you got to subscribe, because we release videos and I'll be coming your way 4:30 p.m. GMT for us to continue the discussion. Okay, Okafo Juliet said, just joining for the first time. That's awesome. Welcome, Okafo Juliet. I go live 4:30 p.m. GMT from Mondays to Fridays and teach like this. In that case, so you can be joining us on the live stream. You can subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so that when I go live, you'll be the first person to be notified, so you can join us. Jones Walker said, thanks for the lectures. I'm grateful. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, John. Always a pleasure. Right, so let's go back to the question that we're looking at. So the second question we want to look at is a bit broader, and we want to look at how we can apportion the overheads using the various bases of apportionment. We can apportion overheads using the various bases of apportionment. Benga said, I'm new here too. Please say that again. Which one should I say again? Okay, so I go live from Mondays to Fridays at 4:30 p.m. GMT. That is Ghana time, 4:30 p.m. GMT. I go live Monday to Friday, 4:30 p.m. GMT. And I'll be teaching based on the topics that students have requested for us to cover on the channel. And so you can follow me on Instagram as well. It has the same name as this channel, Nhyira Premium, because on Instagram, we'll be posting whatever we will discuss for the day there. Then on Saturdays and Sundays, I don't come live, but I'll be releasing some videos that will help you to become successful and take your life to the next level. So Mondays to Fridays, 4:30 p.m. GMT, and then Saturdays, Sundays, still 4:30 p.m., but that will not be a live stream. It will be a video that will release on something that will enable you to become successful. Okay, so Benga said, okay, got that. Thank you. You're welcome. Right, so let's go back to our question. Facebook, I see some of you joining. You're welcome. You can comment in the comment box if you have any questions for me on that. Okay, okay. So Quenu said, yes, sir. I got it. Let's go to the second question. So production overhead cost for the period as follows. So factory rent, factory heat, processing department, packaging department, depreciation of equipment, factory canteen expenses, welfare cost of factory employees, and that one gives us a total. That one gives us a total of 80,000. That one gives us a total of 80,000. Now the requirement here, it's simple. So we are required to allocate and apportion production overhead cost amongst the three departments using a suitable basis. So if you look at what is going on here, what are we going to do? What exactly are we going to do here to make sure that we understand what's going on here? So factory rent, what will be the appropriate basis? I said cubic space. So we could use the cubic space to apportion the factory rent. Okay, so we have the cubic space in there. Then we see factory heat. Factory heat. Now, factory heat also, it will be appropriate for us to use the same cubic space to allocate the factory heat because we don't have meter reading or horsepower in this question. So since we don't have meter reading or horsepower in this question, what's going to happen is that we're going to be having this together there in that case. So cubic space will still be used to share our factory heat among the departments that are under consideration, Then we come to depreciation of equipment. No, because packaging department supervisor. So what is going to happen is that we will use, this is directly allocated. Okay, so you don't have to share this. It is directly allocated. So supervisors work in the processing department, and we have processing department here. Supervisors working at the packaging department, and we have the packaging department here. So this is directly allocated. So we're not going to be sharing anything there. Directly allocated. And so then we come to depreciation of equipment. Depreciation of equipment.